put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television. I am Adanna Combie. Thank you for staying with us. We continue conversations this morning and we speak with Mr. Allan Stewart, and he is the director of TEMA as we speak about preparations for October Carnival here in Tobago. Good morning, Mr. Stewart, and welcome.
Hi, good morning. It's good being here, and we are happy to be able to communicate where we are in terms of preparations for Carnival as it relates to the risks involved with the festivity.
That's right. And you know, the Carnival is in its third edition. And so, of course, you've had your opportunity to make your assessments from the 2 previous years so that you can make your strategies to implement as you move forward. I want to talk a little bit about how it started off and, you know, the things that you saw you had to improve on or include in terms of your strategic plan to roll out to manage the risks that might be involved in hosting an event of this nature on the island.
Exactly. Since 2005, the Tobago Emergency Management Agency, previously known as NEMA, saw the necessity based on the risks associated with such a festivity. So as early as that time, we set out what you call a joint command post exercise where we bring 4 major groups together, law enforcement and also health, medical, and also safety as it relates to these festivities. When the risk assessment, there's a sort of a continuum where when you do the risk assessment for these mega events such as Carnival, there are certain risks that jumps out at you almost immediately. One, you're dealing with a massed event of people, assembling sometimes in large groups. And also we have learned over the years that some of the incidents that we have seen, medical incidents, it has become necessary to maintain and to improve going forward. We have seen people gyrating on top of trucks. you know, sometimes it's important. These ladies sometimes feel that it's quite important for them to be seen, and sometimes they're not acquainted with some of the risk factors involved, such as over low-hanging wires. We have recognized that to be a threat to that type of behavior. Sometimes you're facing the music or facing the crowd and not realizing that you have a low line hanging. Sometimes they try to hold the lines, things like that. So we recognize all that. We have seen people falling from trucks. We have seen where trucks roll over persons' feet. And we also saw where a number of different incidents, medical incidents happen. We have seen the necessity since during the period where you had the Tobago Fest, that violence is one of the given reasons why it was suspended. However, it's an important element on our calendar, and therefore we have seen the necessity to improve it using IAs or CCTV systems, which have worked quite well. You monitor crowd behaviors, you're able to see where incidents are sparking. You see somebody push somebody, the next person push them back. That is something you could actually notify law enforcement. Here we have somewhat unrest taking place in a particular area. And then you have the public health issues. For example, pre the event, there are persons that sometimes fit associated with the festival, or even stands or infrastructure that becomes important so that the infrastructure itself provide safety to those persons who are utilizing those facilities, such as stage, and different type of appurtenances belonging to those areas. You also have public health issues in the area where food sales are made. Persons, we have had several complaints. So it's what we have been doing as we recognize these risk factors is bringing these major players from these 4 critical groups together. As I said, law enforcement, then you have the fire service looking at these infrastructure as to how they are done, whether they are engineering applied to it. Then you bring in the T&Tech that will look at overhead lines, and that is a mess in the country right now, especially in Tobago, where you have a number of the poles in Tobago are used as waste baskets, where lines are just there. A drunkard could hold them, pull them down. A truck could be pulling them down. So it's important that we bring these players together and pre the event itself and look at how we can mitigate where we cannot prevent. So that has been going quite well. The public health issues we would have dealt with food preparation. It was critically important that we start early discussions with some of these players. One will recall that even right recently in the 3rd edition or by the 2nd edition of the festivity, we were able to walk the parade ground with the ACP, who was set up as a goal commander for the event, and we were able to do inspection with people like DIQUD. For example, the whole thing about is making the Tobago Carnival one of the safest festivals in the world. And I think that it is something that is doable. We have been demonstrating that. We have seen a drastic reduction of violence in our carnival here in Tobago as a result of the work of law enforcement joining these particular events. You have also lost and found, where sometimes I commonly say that we find the children. The children is not the problem. I think the parents are lost. And sometimes, so we have the children and then we're looking for the parents. So to me, it's just the parents being lost. They don't know where the child is, you know, but they are safe and sound. So we have put in these pieces through this joint command post, and it has been borrowed from Tobago since 2005. It's now been done in Trinidad as well, where you're having these venue operation centers setting up in such a way to coordinate these risks that may involve people. It may lend itself to, in most cases, anthropogenics, but we are quite aware that in these events, there is always the possibility that you could have an event where it could be disturbed by a natural disaster, and therefore you require a mass evacuation of Scarborough. I remember ACP Moore, we still be planning to do something every year at the end of the festivity to do an evacuation of Scarborough. In some pieces, they try to simulate it by moving out when they shut down the music. These lines across the road and move out the crowd as quickly as possible. But this is still something to be done. You know, we have emergency plans for Scarborough, emergency evacuation plans for Scarborough, muster points set up, established. We want to use this opportunity to allow the public to understand that in the midst of these festivities, there's a need for safety as well.
And, you know, as you're talking about, you know, evacuating large crowds, sometimes, especially for events like Carnival, where people, of course, they drink and, you know, they're not really in their natural self.
That's right.
And so,
when tipsy's too.
That's right. That's right. You know, I know you're trying to move them. Let's say something happens and you're trying to move them all together in one particular, move them out, evacuate. How has that been? I mean, I know you said it's still to be done, but how does TEMA and the other agencies position themselves to manage an unruly crowd?
It comes through pre-planning. One of the things that we recognize is that the injector is that of music. Strange enough. You stop the music and a man stop balancing.
Or he might start quarreling while you stop the music.
That's right. But the important thing is that we have improve as we move along. So we have not just through the THA would have set up the festival commissions over the years, and we have included them in early planning. As a matter of fact, they set the pace for our planning activities through our after action review, or what they call AARs. We have established that it requires, as we look for a service improvement plan, that it's important that we engage our stakeholders as early as possible. And that lends itself to the involvement of the band associations, those people who are involved in carrying out the mass, the band leaders, the fetters, the importance of bringing in the licensing authority into the whole picture so that chucks and other players or interest groups can understand what is expected of them. The necessity you will see during these weeks ahead, that you will see a line of professional experts coming to forums like these or platforms like these to educate the public as to what to expect. So while we are talking things like food safety, it's important that the very public understand exactly what to look for, what not to do. And therefore, we talk to the band leaders, for example, when to cut the music, the DJs with an understanding that, listen, for example, the proximity of the hospital, what to expect. How do we find a medium ground as to what to create the right type of balance in terms of behaviors? So I think we are set to go. We are in the stage of finalizing our plans for procurement. We have recognized that with the procurement becoming a major challenge in preparations, especially when you're operating in an environment where resources are becoming aged, and therefore you have to replace them, and some of these fall under an item called minor equipment. It's important that we understand where our assets are, how we need to get them, and start the early planning. So we are in that stage right now where we are conducting those plans. We have had about 3 meetings so far for the Carnival with the stakeholders involved, and therefore we are finalizing those plans to ensure that we continue with the mantra as, you know, making this place the greatest little island in paradise, and also ensuring that we have the finest and the most safe Carnival in the region.
And, you know, while we plan, you know, assessing all the risk and put all the strategies in place for implementation, there's something that recently surfaced. I'm not sure how popular it is yet, but I came across some information that said, you know, we're in the rainy season now. Our Carnival usually there's a lot of rain.
Yes.
But we're in the height of the rainy season and we're not getting any rain. We're hardly seeing the rain. In fact, it's so hot day and night and the sun is blistering. Has any consideration been given to, we're going to have revelers on the street, masqueraders, during the daytime in the blazing hot sun, should there be no rain? In terms of health and safety and maintaining hydration and stuff, is there any conversation around that topic in terms of ensuring masqueraders, band leaders, and all the persons who are involved protect themselves and, you know, prepare their bodies, you know, for taking the road and probably having to endure treacherous heats at this time?
Yes, certainly. As I said, the one of the within, I call it the Pentagon of disaster management when we look at what obtains in the cycle. So there are areas where you do prevention. There are areas where it's important to do mitigation, preparedness, and response. While what we signal point towards these responses, emergency responses, I think these discussions, whether utilization of forums such as these, is all intended to allow the populace or the will-be masquerader or reveler or onlooker or special needs persons attending to understand how to treat with these risk factors as we bring them to the forefront. Because sometimes it requires a sense of awareness. Sometimes people just need a reminder. Things that, as you say, if you understand alcohol sometimes poses a threat to even keeping you hydrated. It takes away a lot. of body fluids in a particular manner. And therefore, it's important that one take care of themselves. There has been an upbeat now, persons preparing themselves for the fatigue that their bodies will come under. The route is a pretty challenging one, I must say. And as you said, the weather today, these days are very hot, but as I said, there are those natural hazards that we always have to prepare for. October Carnival falls greatly in the hurricane season, and if not a hurricane, there will always be the possibility of severe weather events. So you may have infrastructure that could become kites in an emergency such as that could bring not only damages to persons, but also in the absence of persons, you could have debris flying around the place. So that is how important it is to create that sense of balance. And I think we are doing what we know is best in the sense of engagement and the collaboration between stakeholders, bringing them to the table and have the discussions where they can go back and speak to their members of their bands. And also outside of that, I remember at our last 2 meetings, it was pointed out that while we are strongly focusing on bands, there are just the revelers, people who don't want to be subject to any control of ban or anything like that. They are the guy who will just drink to the extreme where he sleep out the whole carnival on the pavement, in the drain, and the risks of these things, what can happen. So we are encouraging the general public, whoever you are out there, all things in moderation, all things in moderation. Don't lose your senses during these activities where you throw all caution to the wind and cause yourself, your family. It's important that, there are the deviants in the society that utilize the miscreants who will use these events to bring harm to either your property or yourself. And you have, it's important that we understand that safety not only speaks to what is happening within the route of Carnival, but also when you abandon your vehicles, you make sure that you have them locked. You don't leave items on your back seats that may create attractions or in your vehicles that may cause one to secure it, in a particular manner. Your children, you make sure that there's always a possibility that you may be carried away by the music and forget that and the child may just wander away looking at something very colorful as well, and you become separated. So it's important to sometimes allow the child to be able to, in these kind of frightening scenarios, to be able to identify themselves, a telephone number, things like that they can call, maybe in their back pocket. Things they will be asked their name, who is your parents, things like that. And so the infrastructure in Carnival becomes very important, where we have used the old FCB car park as the Joint Command Operations Center, where an AMP is set up for advanced medical post. We also have a mobile command unit that will be there to allow for effective coordination among all of the various disciplines, from law enforcement and those 4 areas that I spoke earlier about. So we are urging the general public to do their part to ensure that, once again, that we have the safest carnival in the region.
That's right. And sometimes it comes with a personal responsibility.
Yes.
As you were talking about, sometimes there might be the reveler who doesn't want to be in a band, and he might just spend his time sleeping on the pavements, as you said. And of course you have to take that personal responsibility for your space, be aware of where you are and stuff like that. So I really do, I know that the role that TEMA plays. I know the role that all the stakeholders who are coming together to ensure the safety of this carnival. I know the importance and the significance that you play in ensuring that we remain safe. And I want to ask you this one question. I never thought about it before until you were speaking. in your experience and from your wealth of knowledge, if you were to make an assessment and we only had the resources or the finances to have one particular resource available to ensure safety, what would that one thing be that you would say we cannot have the carnival or any activity without implementing this particular thing?
Effective communications. Simple. Communications is the key to all of it. It's the glue that brings everybody together. It's the one thing that connects through the atmosphere, the anosphere, and the different spheres, you know, of this space that we think is a space, you know. And there are major players. Sometimes things happen. We cannot, if you look at the uptake in violence, you recognize that extremism is becoming a very challenging thing for law enforcement. And therefore, communication is the key to stay in one place and be able to communicate with each other almost instantaneously. And so it's if you're stripped down to zero, it's the first thing that we lend our thoughts to. Effective communications. We talk about the 4 C's and the 1 P. So when I speak about the pentagon of disaster management, command and control, communications and coordination and effective planning are those 4 C's and the 1 P.
Absolutely amazing. And of course, I endorse that fully, especially being a communications practitioner. I endorse that 100%. And, you know, I want to continue to wish you and your team the best, all the stakeholders who are coming together to assist in ensuring we have a safe space for Carnival, not just for Carnival, but for everything that happens on the island of Tobago. I know there's an involvement from Tima there, and I want to wish you the best. I pray the grace for you, because I know it's going to be sleepless nights putting things together, ensuring that they're implemented well. So all the best there to you and the entire team. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been speaking with Mr. Allan Stewart, the director of TIMA, as we speak about preparedness for Carnival in October here in Tobago this year, 2024. He spoke us through the plans and the strategies that are going to be implemented and the things that are going to be available and accessible to all those who are going to be participating in the events here on the island. Of course, we're so happy that you stayed with us right till the very end. And this is where we have to end the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television. But it's not where we end our programming. We head on over to GMT. So stay with us. And as you stay with us, we invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live.